welcome to Limerick Voice TV. The headlines this evening. Concerns have been raised after South Dock in Fermoy shut its doors mid-pandemic. In Limerick, a local journalist has created a map showing volunteers available to assist those in self-isolation. And across the country, people have been using unique methods to continue socialising. But first to the top story of the day, where concerns have been raised in Fermoy after the area's out-of-hours doctor service, South Dock, shut its doors last week. The closure is expected to remain for the duration of the coronavirus pandemic. Terry Keane reports.
It may be deserted here in Fermoy, but our hospitals will be anything but in a few weeks. With health services creaking in the cities, rural services are also under pressure. Here in Fermoy, locals are concerned after South Dock has closed its doors.
It's awful because when you have an emergency, there was always that service to go to, and now that it's gone, it's hard to know what you would do, and especially at a time like this when more and more people are getting sick.
Politicians William O'Leary and James O'Connor have been fighting the decision on behalf of locals.
Absolutely furious to have heard the news yesterday that the after-hours GP service in South Dock Fermoy is to close with immediate effect. This is a decision that it makes absolutely no sense. There is no logic behind it. I mean, Fermoy and the surrounding area has a huge geographical catchment.
Given the situation we're now facing, the largest public health emergency since the foundation of the state, I think it's completely unacceptable for South Dock now of all times to turn around and say we're temporarily closing these facilities.
Reporting here from Fermoy, Terry Keane, Limerick Voice TV.
Parents across the country are facing new challenges as they work from home along with their children. Exactly 1 week since the Taoiseach's announcement that schools and childcare facilities must close until March 29th, Ciara Barry has been finding out how parents are coping.
School's out for summer, or at least until the 29th of March. For Luke and Neela Curtin, school closures have meant more time at home to focus on their art. But for their parents, who are both still working outside the home, it has brought new challenges.
Our regular childminder is in a high-risk category because she's over 70. Shane works in a pharmacy, so he'll be open all the time anyway. It's going to be like, can one of us go in, one of us come home, do half days, just juggle it between us because we've no other option.
For parents who can work from home, juggling work and childcare can be just as much of an issue.
As a mum and as an academic, I feel quite torn in terms of not doing either job correctly. I'm finding that I need to do certain things in order to keep a perspective in terms of what's doable and what's realisable in any particular day. And I'm actually taking a little bit of a step back from social media because I'm finding on the one hand, and this is all very good-natured sharing and sort of discussion that's happening on social media, but on the one hand, academic colleagues will sometimes say things like, this crisis gives us a chance to catch up with research and to be really productive in terms of writing, and I'm starting a new book and this sort of thing. And then on the other hand, there's a lot of ideas and resources coming at us in terms of parenting, in terms of what we can be doing with our child. Why not put on a play? Why not get your child to start this major new art project? That all creates kind of a pressure that I feel I need to step back a little bit from.
With the closures expected to last well beyond the 29th of March deadline, the wheels on the school bus won't be going round and round anytime soon. Ciara Barry, Limerick Voice News.
Spending time with loved ones may seem like a daydream to some during self-isolation. However, for others, it's a welcomed reality. Mairead Cleary has been learning about all the new ways to socialise with a little bit of help from the internet.
Just because we are told to live within these four walls doesn't mean that we're not still living. Across Ireland, people are still chatting, challenging and socialising with each other. Except now, it's done nearly exclusively online.
Online challenges have been popping up everywhere, from the Keepy Uppy challenge, the dance challenge and the good old-fashioned pub quiz, minus the pub.
Well, I got really bored at home and I've seen the hashtag virtual pub movement by the US Students' Union, or StudentRife, and I decided why not do a big Kahoot with everyone because everyone loves Kahoots. This evening I'm hosting a pub quiz for my year group, which is like 400 people. Like, I'm not going to get 400 people in the room, but like, let's play Kahoot But in the circumstances we're in, you're going to have to just do something that is fun.
They say that necessity is the mother of all invention.
So whatever you get up to during your time in self-isolation, make it creative.
Maria Carey for Limerick Voice News.
1 week since government measures were first put in place in Ireland to stop the spread of COVID-19, social distancing is taking its toll. With no end currently in sight, people are anxious to return to their families and friends. Anne Cronin has more.
Mothers, fathers, grandparents and children. Self-isolation is uniting and dividing us all. For some, these recent changes are taking an emotional toll. Margaret Horgan's son lives in residential care due to his additional needs.
They are isolating as well. We cannot meet and he cannot come here. I understand it from a safety view for the staff and for the other clients in the house he lives in, and for himself, because if he had to be completely isolated and locked up, he would find it very difficult. I've never been away from him so long. It's not easy for him to understand what a virus actually is, and all he wants to do is visit home.
A week into the self-isolation process, and a long road still lies ahead.
I feel very isolated. On occasion, I go to the local shop to get some groceries, and on a Friday, I go to the local post office to collect my pension. I do not visit the neighbours because we're told not to be in close contact with anybody. What keeps me going is I walk the dog every evening.
But there is hope, as long as the phone calls keep coming, the fresh air stays fresh, and everyone works together and alone. Anne Cronin, Limerick Voice TV.
In Limerick, a new map showing volunteers available to assist those in self-isolation has been developed by a local journalist. It's just one of a number of measures introduced there to help people with COVID-19. Kaylee Hardiman has been taking a look.
Health correspondent for the Limerick Leader, Fintan Walsh, and John Moran from Livable Limerick are working together to compile an interactive map for those self-isolating.
The map lets people know where volunteers are based so they can avail of getting food, medication and ITD assistance.
We decided that what we're trying to do is to try and join the dots here in Limerick. First of all, in terms of who wanted the help and who needed help. Clearly this is going to get a lot worse than it is at the moment, and the objective here is to try and build an infrastructure that can be leveraged up.
What I found was that, this is a public healthcare crisis, and with a healthcare crisis, you'll find a lot of challenges with communication, and that's because there's a palaver of channels where people are getting their information. So I wanted to create a kind of a one-stop shop where everyone could communicate and network together and see cartographically and visually where people are at, so that people can find out who are their closest volunteers.
Lisa O'Donovan is also taking steps to ensure that the vulnerable people in Limerick have someone to turn to.
I've been using social media quite a lot to try and reach out to people. Obviously, I'm really aware though that probably the people I want to reach, like many vulnerable people or elderly people, probably aren't on social media. So what I did do was just in the local newsagents around Limerick City West, I just put up a poster, and all I had was my contact details. Most people have, know that there's someone in their community that they can reach out to.
That's it for the news today, but now we'll head over to the sports desk with Anthony Gagan.
Thanks, Niamh. Yes, while the outbreak of COVID-19 has led to the European Soccer Championship and Champions League, amongst others, to be suspended or delayed, there is still one County Limerick sporting event that will go ahead as planned. According to the organisers of the JP McManus Pro-Am Golfing Tournament in Adair Manor, while the pre-qualifiers have been cancelled, the main golfing tournament will continue as planned until further notice. Another sporting event this summer that is reportedly going ahead is the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. Despite public outcries to delay the Olympics to 2021, the IOC has announced that the Games will go ahead as planned. While locals Roisin Upton and Paul O'Shea have secured their team's places for the Games, many qualification events were postponed, leaving many Irish hopefuls in the dark. The Irish national rugby team's international test series against Australia this summer is also in jeopardy due to the recently imposed travel ban by the Australian government. Despite tickets going on sale for the matches in Brisbane and Sydney in July, there are many concerns that the series would go ahead due to delays in European club competitions from COVID-19. Along with the announcement that the RFU are suspending club and school activities until March 29th, there are many players all over the country who have to train indoors without the comforts of their gym and pitches. Our sports correspondent James O'Connor has more.
After Irish rugby postponed domestic and provincial games until March the 29th, and with gyms being closed until the same date, players have been left in a difficult situation. Going from having a strict training schedule to being advised to self-isolate can be tricky for anyone. And I caught up with a college player and a Munster player to see how they're coping with the situation.
Well, I suppose with rugby, we're supposed to be on the pitch Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're supposed to be in the gym Monday and Friday. Unfortunately, that's all stopped because all the facilities are closed. So, we've actually turned to doing home workouts and stuff now with our S&Cs are giving us.
So what kind of schedule do you have for this week, and what are Munster after telling you to do?
A lot of gyms being closed now at the moment, it's difficult, but they kind of sent out 2 schedules to us, so usually we would be in Limerick for the whole week, but obviously with everything going ahead we couldn't do that. They put out new set of schedules for us, so you're absolutely nothing at home. Obviously we're not allowed to go to public gyms and stuff, but it's difficult though because you're going to be on your own for a lot of it, so it's kind of hard to keep motivated in that sense. But like now today, we went into a local pitch and did a few the running sessions. But it's the time staying on top now for the free weights. It's going to be the difficult one, but no, it's good.
With the coronavirus predicted to only get worse in Ireland, it looks like sports won't be played for the foreseeable future. But like these players, it's important to get out and stay active, both mentally and physically. That's all from James O'Connor, Limerick Voice TV.
Now, I'm sure many of you are keen to stay indoors, but for those who aren't, here's Boyan Zhang with the weather.
Thanks, Anthony. Good evening. Our weather today is mainly dry and cold, and most of the areas in the Midwest is clear with a sharp frost. Temperatures could drop to -3 degrees Celsius, with lowest temperatures on the East Coast. High pressure is due to the main influence on the weather in Ireland this week, bringing with dry weather and light winds, but frosty nights could be colder than normal. Friday tomorrow, we have a cold, frosty start, but later there will be dry with good spell of sunshine pattern in the morning. Cloud will increase from the south during the afternoon, with rain pushing into the southwest during the evening. Saturday for the upcoming weekend will be a typical Irish day, mainly cloudy but dry in most of the counties. Later in the evening, we will see rain and sleet with frost and icy patches, so be careful when driving. But on Sunday, the sun is visiting again with light winds. Next week will bring more dry and largely settled conditions. Days are expected to be milder, but frosty nights are still a concern. That's all for the weather. Stay healthy, stay safe. Now I'm handing back to Neve.
Thanks, Boyan. Now to recap on today's headlines. Concerns have been raised after South Dock shut its doors mid-pandemic. In Limerick, a local journalist has created a map showing volunteers available to assist those in self-isolation. And across the country, people have been using unique methods to continue socialising. That's it from us today at Limerick Voice TV. Have a good evening.